òun ni màláìkà rẹ̀, òun ni màláìkà rẹ̀, Fájìmí Ifakayode, òun ni màláìkà rẹ̀.
Hello, good day everyone. Wherever you are watching this video, I greet you. My name is Ifakayode. I'm a spiritual consultant and traditional herbalist, and this is a spiritual channel where we share different spiritual tips. Spiritual lecture like this, a deep spiritual lecture like this. So we've shared many on the channel, and this particular one today I believe is going to benefit you. So if you are lucky enough to be among those that will watch this video today, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like the video. Also comment so that we'll be motivated to post more. These spiritual lectures I'm bringing to your feet today, it's a great spiritual lecture and the common obstacles people are facing. So, and I said it earlier that most of spiritual challenges cannot be faced by spiritual works alone. There are some that you need to get some knowledge about them first. You need to have some basic knowledge about spiritual problem first before you say you want to tackle them. And this today I bring to your view the 5 signs that will let you know that you have a spiritual husband or spiritual wife. So I want you to watch the video right from the beginning to the end, and I promise you that you are going to learn a very great lesson and a very great thing today if you can take your time to watch, like the video and comment. So I want to educate us about what we call spiritual husband or spiritual wife. What is spiritual husband? What are the causes? What effect? What are the signs you can see to know if you have a spiritual husband? So these lessons are going to be analyzed one by one. These questions are going to be answered one by one. That's why I want you to watch from now to the beginning to the end. Now, the first question and the most important things today is, what is spiritual husband or spiritual wife? You see, lately I've seen some people doing videos, doing lectures, not even lectures, trying to tell people about giving them spiritual works on how to tackle spiritual husband. Well, I would say they are also trying to help humanity. But I want you to know this thing, just like I said earlier, there are some basic knowledge you need to have about a spiritual problem or even a spiritual work before you can venture into it. And this is what we are going to discuss now. Now, as per what is asked in this video, that what is spiritual husband? So without wasting much of our time, let me go to the direct meaning of the spiritual husband. Spiritual husband are the spirit that is attached to you. They are the unseen spirit that is attached to you than the physical husband, in a sense that they are the unseen spirit that you have some confidence, that you have some oath with right from heaven or with some reasons, which I'm going to explain later. So they are the unseen genes, unseen creatures where you have some oath with. I quote that particular line, oath. So they are the unseen that you plan to live with spiritually. They are the spiritual husband or spiritual wife, as the name implies. So now, as we get to know the real meaning of spiritual husband and spiritual wife, the next question, what causes it? Well, I would say the cause are natural. The cause are natural. To say that someone has a spiritual wife or spiritual husband, the cause are normally natural, or let me say are even spiritual. The reason is that we have different categories of people that fall into this part, that fall into this situation of the things. They are the first people in this category are people we known as emere, the people of the Ephumate. Another category of people are elegbeorun, the real Ephumate, and the another people that normally face this problem are people maybe they have night husband. So actually people don't know the difference between these three things, like having a water spirit, having a spiritual wife or spiritual husband, having heaven mate. So they are they are three total different things, but people have mixed it together. If someone is facing maybe a water spirit, maybe he or she have a water spirit, they will say maybe they will be using maybe the nature of spiritual husband or the trait of spiritual husband for someone who has a water spirit, which are totally different. But mostly people in this three category are those who normally face the problem of spiritual husband or spiritual wife. Now I want to elaborate it. Whatever makes someone fall under this three category, it is 80% sure that you are likely to have spiritual husband or spiritual wife. Either have the heaven mate. Most people that are the number one in this category are people of heaven mate. There's no way you will be in a group. Let me give you an instance. Either you are in a group now. When you are in a group and you are a member of that group, you want to marry, surely you must marry from that group. That is the reason why, that's where some people get their spiritual husband, because they belong to one heaven mate or the other. And one thing I want to say is that there's nothing like heaven husband as some people describe it. The reason is there's no husband in heaven. The spirit will appear as a jinn. The unseen creatures comes and mate with whoever they are dealing with. In the sense that the spirit will come as unseen. They live within us, they live in the air, they live around us, but you cannot see them. But they are with you all the time. For whoever is attached to them, if you have a spiritual husband, for example, believe that it is always with you, but you cannot see him. It is always with you, but you cannot see him. So that's the level, different categories of people that can normally face this spiritual husband of a thing. Because whoever is a member must surely have an oath. It's like when you belong to a particular group, then whatever you do in that group must be with a oath. So now, everyone that has a spiritual husband always have a oath with the husband right from the heaven, right from the from the group, that when they come to life, they are sent on a mission not to go and marry. So but when they get to life, maybe as a man or a woman, they will forget that easily. So the spiritual husband has been the oath right before the child was born. Right before the child was born. So now, that is more reason why some people will never experience something like that. But now to the third explanation, that is, when at the exact age that you will start noticing that you have a spiritual husband? Yes, that's a good question, because noticing you have a spiritual husband starts from when you are 13 years old. Yes, take note of that. You cannot know instantly when you born a child that this child is having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife, not until they reaches 13 years of age. And the signs will become more bigger. The reasons to know that someone is having a spiritual husband becomes more bigger the more they grows, the more they reaches the puberty age. That is when you will notice that someone is having a spiritual husband. Now, to the fourth and the last question, which is the reason I'm making this video, that is, what are the signs you have to know that what are the signs you will see to know that you have a spiritual husband or spiritual wife? Number one, so just like I was saying, so here are the 10 signs to tell whether you are having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife. So these signs are the common signs to notice in whoever is having the spiritual husband or spirit husband or spirit wife. So whenever you notice this sign, just note them. So they are the common signs of whoever is having that spiritual challenges. The first one is whoever is having a spiritual husband we find it hard. Yes, they normally find it hard to get a husband, a real husband or a physical husband, in the sense that whoever is having these spiritual challenges will always be having a relationship failure, in the sense that they will be trying every jumping from one relationship to another, because the spiritual husband are the kind of spirit that are always jealous. They are so jealous. Yes, they are so jealous in a spiritual manner. The spiritual husband are very jealous to the extent that whoever is having this problem, maybe they fall into the category of people having a spiritual wife or spiritual husband, we find it really hard to get a real husband or a real wife. They will find it hard because they'll be having a failed relationship, a failed marriage and all that. So, and if they find it hard to find a relationship, it will be so difficult to get married, or or do something that will later that will later benefit their marital life. So this kind of problem is a very big issue many people are facing. So now, for whoever is having this problem, they will always be having a crashing relationship. Their relationship will be crashing all the time. So, and then now let me tell you how it operates. For whoever is having this spiritual husband, the spiritual husband will find every way to break every relationship. And what strategies do this spiritual husband use? The strategies is that they put some kind of spirit in whoever they are operating on, in whoever they are host. They put the spirit in their body, and the spirit will always make them to be rejecting every relationship. Like, they will not be feeling they are in a relationship all the time. So that's the first sign there. Like and the second thing there is that for those that manage to get married, or maybe they later, maybe by force, or maybe due to some trials, due to some prayers, they manage to get married. You know what this spiritual husband will do? It will find every means to block the ways of that man, of that man who marries that person having this spiritual husband. The spiritual husband will find way to block the way of that real husband, that physical husband, because now they told you you are having a spiritual husband, then you manage to maybe get married due to some prayers, some things, and later on, what spiritual, if not treated well, if the situation not treated well, the spiritual husband would now block the ways of that man. That is where you will hear some people, maybe after marriage, they just realize that their things are going down. Maybe their business have been moving well before the marriage. They have been experiencing a lot of goodness before the marriage, and all of a sudden after the marriage, then the thing will start getting rough again. They will start experiencing bad things, misfortunes and all that. The thing is, it is not everything caused by maybe witchcraft. When this one will talk, they will say it's your mother that is doing you, it is your village people. That it is not every time maybe village people and all of things like we all imagine. Sometimes they are from this thing we mentioned, the spiritual husband. Like, the first sign, just like I said, is you will notice that you will get really hard to find a husband. And for those who manage to get a husband, now if the situation is not treated well, if you don't get rid of that problem, then whoever you marry will be experiencing some hardship in their business, in their life generally. So, and that is why having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife is one of the greatest spiritual problem one can ever face. So that's the first sign there. So they find it really hard to get into to get a husband. So to get a husband, that's the really because the spiritual husband will be chasing away all the potential men that are approaching them, to be chasing them away, because I told you earlier that they are very jealous spirit. They are very jealous spirit. So that's the first sign to notice. So if you are the kind of person that you notice this kind of thing in your body, you try to work on it very fast before it gets really late. Now, the second thing that you will notice, that relationship failure. So it somehow look like the first options, the first thing I mentioned earlier. So they will be having a relationship failure even before getting into the stages of marriage. Or the marriage will be failing, or the relationship will be failing. And then apart from relationship failure, another thing to notice about them is that they will be having some kind of disappointment for men generally. If a woman is having a spiritual husband, or a man is having a spiritual wife, then they will be having if a woman is having a spiritual husband, she will be having a disappointment for men, whether in relationship or whether in marriage. And this thing occur, maybe you will notice that after a man just slept with them, then that is when the relationship will crash, because the spiritual husband, just like I said, hate jealousy. And those that manage, maybe that's why you will be hearing some people that some women always complain that maybe after men slept with them, then they leave them alone, the relationship crash. That is what will be happening to whoever is having this problem. So if you notice the kind of thing, that means you are having the unseen husband attached to you that you have a oath with, and you cannot tell by ordinary eyes. This is what I'm saying. Actually, recently I saw some videos on YouTube, Facebook, and all that. People try to give people, maybe go and do this thing, go and use your spiritual husband will go away. There's a particular oath, so we are going to talk on that. So but before we talk on that, let us analyze these signs, some signs to tell whether you are having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife. So that is the second sign there. So you are having a failed relationship, and then having a intercourse. You know what I mean there. Having a intercourse in the dream. This is the common sign. Yes. And some people, there was a time I was going through some posts there. Some guys still see that thing, some ladies still see that thing as a normal thing, like they will say it is what you are thinking. Having a spiritual husband, the best way to tell whether you are having a spiritual husband is by this thing I just mentioned, that whoever is having it will be copulating in dream. You know what I mean? I don't want this video to be like, that's why I'm using that language. So if you notice that all the time you always have a man copulating with you in the dream, that means there's 90% possibility that you are having a spiritual husband. We have different ways. There are different ways that not only spiritual husband, we have something we call night husband. We are going to talk on that one later. So they are totally different from spiritual husband. They normally there's no strong oath. They don't normally have a strong oath. When you are having a night husband, we will talk on that later, sha. So now, when you are having a spiritual husband, so you will notice that every night, maybe at least 4 times in a month, they will be having this experience. For those that are experiencing this thing, they will be able to tell, they will be able to testify to what I'm saying, that at least 4 times in a month they will be having such experience, a man trying to meet them in a dream. And when they meet them, then that is when maybe their relationship will crash. They're having a relationship that particular time, that relationship will surely crash. So that's the third thing to note there. Then for those that manage to get married, stillbirth, having a stillbirth. You know what I mean? The stillbirth is a situation whereby maybe you are giving birth, the child dies, maybe some months after you give birth to the child, then the child dies. That's how it will be happening. That's what they call stillbirth. You'll be having a stillbirth. For whoever is having a spiritual, because I told you earlier, there's always an oath between a woman having a spiritual husband and that particular woman. So although you may not know, you cannot tell whether you are having a oath with a spirit husband or not until you go for a thorough checking or you take note of this thing I'm mentioning here. Now when you are having this issue, there's possibility that you'll be having a stillbirth, because the spiritual husband will not allow you having a child. For those that manage to get out of the stages of maybe the pregnancy getting spoiled, you understand, some things like that. If you manage to get out of the situation, maybe the spiritual husband spoiling your pregnancy, then it will result to the situation of having a stillbirth, that is having a child and the child dies later. So that is the third thing there to notice about whoever is having a spiritual husband. That's the best way to tell you are having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife. Now, another thing to note here is that there are very ways that this thing called spiritual husband operate. Another thing there, the way they operate is that men will always leave them after intercourse. We've discussed that. They will always, now another thing to tell whether you're having a spiritual husband or not is that you always dream of giving birth in dream. This thing are common with most women. Some people, because of lack of knowledge, will interpret it into another thing, like having a kid in the dream. Then you will be saying maybe it's a sign of fruitfulness. No, it's a bad sign. When you've never gotten a kid in reality, but you are always dreaming of giving birth to a child in a dream, that means you are being attached to a spiritual husband, giving birth in a dream. And normally for those that have experienced this, they will see that in that dream later, maybe someone will come and carry away the child in the dream. This thing is happening to some people. So some people will say this thing cannot be real. It is what you experience, it is what you hear. As we hear now, there's a lot of situation of things we hear in this position we are. So these things are happening to some people. This is what they are experiencing. But the reason why we are making this video is to clear some ignorance, because religion has blindfolded some people. They see this kind of thing as maybe normal things, maybe sometimes witchcraft and all that. So it's not everything witchcraft or someone is doing. There's some particular thing. This life is so wide, spirituality is so wide. That is why you need to watch this kind of video. And what we don't do is that this kind of video may not be doing well, because we don't, people are not really so intelligent to the level of knowing the root of spirituality. But something like money will be what they will be jumping on. Now, another thing to notice that you are having a spiritual husband is that they spoil pregnancy. You've never heard a situation whereby a woman will be having pregnancy, then at the particular month in that oath that you have with your spiritual husband, whether you have it maybe 3 months oath with your spiritual husband, when that 3 months reaches, that pregnancy will spoil. So that is why you hear some ladies, maybe after some years of trying to look for pregnancy, then the pregnancy will later spoil. So there is another thing there. So the spiritual husband normally spoil pregnancy. So they normally, because I told you they hate competition, and then hatred. This is one of the common weapon uses by the spiritual husband. Hatred. They will normally put hatred in whoever they are operating on their host rather. They will put hatred so that that is where you will see some ladies complaining maybe they are beautiful. You can be beautiful, but you will only be beautiful to the eyes of that your spiritual husband. No man will notice that your beauty, and if they notice it, they will only be sleeping with you, running later, sleeping with you and run later. So that's how it will be happening when you're having a spiritual husband. So it gives hatred to whoever they are operating on. When you're having a spiritual husband, the more they are sleeping with you in the dream, then there is a way they will be operating on your spiritual system. And then, so if you are kind of, again, another point to note, or let me say another sign to know that you have a spiritual husband, is by dreaming, seeing yourself near the beach, near a river or a sea, or even swimming in a pool. Although this kind of particular category can be attributed to many people. So people having a marine spirit, ẹgbẹ́ omi, people having a bush spirit, aláràgbó, people having an heaven mate, ẹgbẹ́ ọ̀run, can also be seeing this kind of sign. So it depends on other signs that follows. So but normally people having the spiritual husband can also see this type of sign. People having, they belongs to maybe having ẹgbẹ́ ọ̀run, we'll still later talk on that maybe in another video. But normally when you're having a spiritual husband, there are some possibilities of seeing yourself near a river, near sea, even near a very big pool, maybe swimming sometime. So these are the common signs of people having a spiritual husband. So by dreaming of swimming in a pool or finding yourself near a river. So that's another thing there. And then another common thing, that one of the weapons of spiritual husband is, if you are a woman and you are having a spiritual husband, one of the spirits your spiritual husband will impose on you is the spirit of ego. Normally, one reason, men generally hate woman not respecting them. Like, as a man, we like woman to be respecting us. So in this category, spiritual husband will put some kind of ego in a woman, that some kind of mistake like this, just one man will leave them today, another man will leave them tomorrow, just by any single mistake. They are easily, the spirit of anger, they easily get angry. So this thing is put in them, so that any marriage or relationship it will be easily they will easily break away from it. Like any relationship like this, they will break away easily from it. So people in this category will be experiencing a failed relationship, will be experiencing some kind of crashed marriage and all that, because they will never respect an husband. They will never respect an husband. So, and to the last point before I will round off the video. So another thing to note that will tell you are having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife is that you always dream of doing marriage. Like you find yourself doing marriage in the dreams. And then when it gets to this stage, that means the problem is really at the doorstep. It's so close. The problem is so close. When it gets to the stages that you dream and find yourself near maybe in a party, it always starts from finding yourself in a party all this time. Like you dream, you find yourself in a party or in congregations. Then it will get to the stages and you find yourself doing marriage with a strange husband in the dream. Then that's when problems come. And if care is not taken, if it gets to these stages, then there's a serious problem, because it is near to death if care is not taken. So that's the last point there. So we used to round up the video. And concerning the solution, there's no problem in this life without a solution. There's a solution to everything. It depends on how well you treated your own. Well, concerning the solution is not just an internet issue. Because recently I've seen some people doing the videos about it, people discussing it, that if you are facing this spiritual husband of a challenge, go and buy this leaf, go and add it to this, and so the spiritual husband will go. No, you are just giving the spiritual husband much power. So it is not just work of internet. There's a deep thing there, because I told you at the beginning of this video that the spiritual husband and the spirit and the wife always have a strong oath. There's a oath before anything spiritual husband can operate, and the oath is beyond human comprehensions. So if you want to break the hold, there must be some kind of appeasement, because you need to appease the husband. Some people will say fight the spiritual husband. It is not possible. Some people have been fighting it all this while, and this problem is still there. So there will be some kind of appeasement. You have to beg it. When you want to collect someone's wife, then you have to beg him that okay, there will be some due process. You have to follow some due process before the wife can be divorced. So that is a physical one, not to talk of a spiritual. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. To the next time, I'll be sharing another spiritual lecture like this. Remain blessed. Thank you.